Hey guys, welcome to day 71 of the Bible in a Year plan. Today, we'll be reading Judges 7 through 8 and Luke 22. If you need to read more about this plan, visit the High Quality Gospel website with a link in the description of the episode and the podcast. Please leave a like and follow the podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Now, let's begin with reading Judges 7. Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, and all the troops who were with him got up early and camped beside the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them, below the hill of Moreh, in the valley. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many troops for me to hand the Midianites over to them, or else Israel might elevate themselves over me, and say, 'I saved myself.' Now announce to the troops, whoever is fearful and trembling may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." So 22,000 of the troops turned back, but 10,000 remained. Then the Lord said to Gideon, "There are too many troops. Take them down to the water, and I will test them for you there. If I say to you, 'This one can go with you,' he can go. But if I say about anyone, 'This one cannot go with you,' he cannot go." So he brought the troops down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, "Separate everyone who laps water with his tongue like a dog. Do the same with everyone who kneels to drink." The number of those who lapped with their hands in their mouths was 300 men, and all the rest of the troops knelt to drink water. The Lord said to Gideon, "I will deliver you, with the 300 men who lapped the hand the Midians over to you. But everyone else is to go home." So Gideon sent all the Israelites to their tents, but kept the 300 troops, who took the provisions and their ram's horns. The camp of Midian was below him in the valley. That night the Lord said to him, "Get up and attack the camp, for I have handed it over to you. But if you are afraid to attack the camp, go down with Purah, your servant. Listen to what they say, and you will be encouraged to attack the camp." So he went down with Purah, his servant, to the outpost of the troops who were in the camp. Now the Midianites, Amalekites, and all the people of the east had settled down the valley like a swarm of locusts, and their camels were as innumerable as the sand on the seashore. When Gideon arrived, there was a man telling his friend about a dream. He said, "Listen, I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp, struck a tent, and it fell. The loaf turned the tent upside down so that it collapsed." His friend answered, "This is nothing less than the sword of Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite. God has handed the entire Midianite camp over to him." When Gideon heard the account of the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship. He returned to Israel's camp and said, "Get up, for the Lord has handed the Midianite camp over to you." Then he divided the 300 men into the companies and gave each of the men a trumpet in one hand and an empty pitcher with a torch inside it in the other hand. "Watch me," he said to them, "and do what I do. When I come to your outpost of the camp, do as I do. When I and everyone with me bow our ram's horns, you are also to bow your ram's horns all around the camp. Then you will say, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" Gideon and then 300 men who were with him went to the outpost of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, after the sentries had been stationed. They blew their ram's horns and broke the pitchers that were in their hands. The 3 companies blew their ram's horns and shattered their pitchers. They held their torches in their left hands and their ram's horns to blow in their right hands, and they shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each Israelite took his position around the camp, and the entire Midianite army began to run, and they cried out as they fled. When Gideon's men blew their 300 ram's horns, the Lord caused the men and the whole army to turn on each other with their swords. They fled to Acacia House in the direction of Zererah as far as the border of Abel-Meholah near Tabbath. Then the men of Israel were called from Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, and they pursued the Midianites. Gideon sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim with this message: "Come down to intercept the Midianites and take control of the watercourses ahead of them as far as Beth-barah and the Jordan." So all the men of Ephraim were called out, and they took control of the watercourses as far as Beth-barah and the Jordan. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the 2 princes of Midian. They killed Oreb at the rock of Oreb and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. While they were pursuing the Midianites, they brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon across the Jordan. The men of Ephraim said to him, "Why have you done this to us, not calling us when you went to fight against the Midianites?" And they argued with him violently. So he said to them, "What have I done now compared to you? Is not the gleaning of Ephraim better than the grape harvest of Abiezer? God handed over to you Oreb and Zeb, the two princes of Midian. What was I able to do compared to you?" When he said this, their anger against them subsided. Gideon and the 300 men came to the Jordan and crossed it. They were exhausted, but still in pursuit. He said to the men of Succoth, "Please give some loaves of bread to the troops under my command, because they are exhausted, for I am pursuing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the princes of Succoth asked, "Are Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hands, that we should give you bread to your army?" Gideon replied, "Very well. When the Lord has handed Zebah and Zalmunna over to me, I will tear your flesh with thorns and briars from the wilderness." He went from there to Penuel and asked the same thing from them. The men of Penuel answered just as the men of Succoth had answered. He also told the men of Penuel, "When I return safely, I will tear down this tower." Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and with them was their army of about 15,000 men, who were all those left of the entire army of the people of the east. Those who had been killed were 120,000 armed men. Gideon traveled on the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and attacked their army while the army felt secure. Zebah and Zalmunna fled, and he pursued them. He captured these two kings of Midian and routed the entire army. Gideon, son of Joash, returned from the battle by the ascent of Heres. He captured a youth from the men of Succoth and interrogated him. The youth wrote down for him the names of the 77 leaders and elders of Succoth. Then he went to the men of Succoth and said, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. You taunted me about them, saying, 'Are Zebah and Zalmunna now in your power, so that we should give you bread to your exhausted men?'" So he took the elders of the city, and he took some thorns and briars from the wilderness, and he disciplined the men of Succoth with them. He also tore down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. He asked Zebah and Zalmunna, "What kind of men did you kill at Tabor?" "They were like you," they said. "Each resembled the son of a king." So he said, "They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As the Lord lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you." Then he said to Jether, his firstborn, "Get up and kill them." The youth did not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Zebah and Zalmunna said, "Get up and strike us down yourself, for a man is judged by his strength." So Gideon got up, killed Zebah and Zalmunna, and took the crescent ornaments that were on the necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Rule over us, you as well as your sons and your grandsons, for you delivered us from the power of Midian." But Gideon said to them, "I will not rule over you, and my son will not rule over you. The Lord will rule over you." Then he said to them, "Let me make a request of you. Everyone give me an earring from his plunder." Now the enemy had gold earrings because they were Ishmaelites. They said, "We agree to give them." So they spread out a cloak, and everyone threw an earring from his plunder on it. The weight of the gold earrings he requested was 43 pounds of gold, in addition to the crescent ornaments and ear pendants, the purple garments on the kings of Midian, and the chains on the necks of their camels. Gideon made an ephod from all this and put it in Ophrah, his hometown. Then all Israel prostituted themselves by worshipping it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and his household. So Midian was subdued before the Israelites, and they were no longer a threat. The land had peace for 40 years during the days of Gideon. Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, son of Joash, went back to live at his house. Gideon had 70 sons, his own offspring, since he had many wives. His concubine, who was in Shechem, also bore him a son, and he named him Abimelech. Then Gideon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried in the tomb of his father Joash in Ophrah of the Abiezrites. When Gideon died, the Israelites turned and prostituted themselves by worshipping the Baals, and made Baal-berith their god. The Israelites did not remember the Lord their God, who had rescued them from the hand of the enemies around them. They did not show kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, for all the good he had done for Israel. The festival of unleavened bread, which is called Passover, was approaching. The priests and the scribes were looking for a way to put him to death, because they were afraid of the people. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, who was numbered among the 12. He went away and discussed with the chief priests and temple police how he could hand him over to them. They were glad and agreed to give him silver, so he accepted the offer and started looking for a good opportunity to betray him to them when the crowd was not present. Then the day of unleavened bread came, when the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover." "Where do you want us to prepare it?" they asked him. "Listen," he said to them. "When you've entered the city, a man carrying a water jug will meet you. Follow him into the house he enters. Tell the owner of the house, the teacher asks you, where's the guest room where I can eat the Passover with my disciples? Then he will show you a large furnished room upstairs. Make the preparations there." So they went and found it just as he had told them, and they prepared the Passover. When the hour came, he reclined at the table, and the apostles with him. Then he said to them, "I have fervently desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer, for I tell you, I will not eat it again until it is fulfilled in the kingdom of God." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he said, "Take this and share it amongst yourselves. For I tell you, from now on I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." And he took the bread, gave thanks, broke it, and gave it to them, and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way he also took the cup after supper, and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. But look, the hand of the one betraying me is at the table with me. For the Son of Man will go away as it has been determined, but woe to that man by whom he is betrayed." So they began to argue amongst themselves which of them it could be and who was going to do it. Then a dispute also arose among them about who should be considered the greatest. But he said to them, "The kings of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who have authority over them have themselves called benefactors. It is not like that to be like that among you. On the contrary, whoever is greatest among you should become the youngest, and whoever leads like the one serving. Who is greater, the one at the table or the one serving? Isn't it the one at the table? But I am among you as the one who serves. You are those who stood by me in my trials. I bestow on you a kingdom, just as my Father bestowed one on me, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom. And you will sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Simon, Simon, look out. Satan has asked you to sift you like wheat. But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And you, when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." "Lord," he told them, "I am ready to go with you both to prison and to death." "I tell you, Peter," he said, "the rooster will not crow today until you deny 3 times that you know me." He also said to them, "When I sent you out with money bag, traveling bag, or sandals, did you lack anything?" "Not a thing," they said. Then he said to them, "But now whoever has a money bag should take it, and also a traveling bag. And whoever doesn't have a sword should sell his robe and buy one. For I tell you, what is written must be fulfilled in me." And he was counted among the lawless. Yes, what is written about me is coming to its fulfillment. "Lord," they said, "look, here are 2 swords." "That is enough," he told them. He went out and made his way as usual to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he reached the place, he told them, "Pray that you may not fall into temptation." Then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt down, and began to pray. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours will be done." Then an angel from heaven appeared to him, strengthening him. Being in anguish, he prayed more fervently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he got up from prayer and came to the disciples, he found them sleeping, exhausted from their grief. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray, so that you won't fall into temptation." While he was still speaking, suddenly a mob came, and one of the 12 named Judas was leading them. He came near Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus said to him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When those around him saw what was going to happen, they asked, "Lord, should we strike with the sword?" Then one of them struck the high priest's servant and cut off his ear. But Jesus responded, "No more of this." And touching his ear, he healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, temple police, and the elders who had come for him, "Have you not come out with swords and clubs, as if I were a criminal? Every day while I was with you in the temple, you never laid a hand on me. But this is your hour and the dominion of darkness." They seized him, led him away, and brought him to the high priest's house. Meanwhile, Peter was following at a distance. They lit a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, and Peter sat among them. When a servant saw him sitting in the light and looked closely at him, he said, "This man was with him too," but he denied it. "Woman, I do not know him." After a while, someone else saw him and said, "You're one of them too." "Man, I am not," Peter said. About an hour later, another kept insisting, "This man was certainly with him, since he's also a Galilean." But Peter said, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." Immediately, while he was still speaking, a rooster crowed. Then the Lord turned and looked at Peter. So Peter remembered the word of the Lord, how he said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. The men who were holding Jesus started mocking and beating him. After blindfolding him, they kept asking, "Prophesy, who was it that hit you?" And they were saying many other blasphemous things to him. When daylight came, the elders of the people, both the chief priests and the scribes, convened and brought him before the Sanhedrin. They said, "If you are the Messiah, tell us." But he said to them, "If I do tell you, you will not believe, and if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." They all asked, "Are you, then, the Son of God?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." "Why do we need any more testimony?" they said, "since we've heard it ourselves from his mouth." On day 70, we began the story of Gideon and his war with the Midianites. Jesus preached in the temple as Passover approaches as well. Today, in Judges, we continue Gideon's leadership and war with the Midianites. Gideon completely destroys Midian and gives glory to God through this. Now, how did Gideon glorify God? Gideon had a large army, yes, but God hated the size of the army. Why? Because an army of that size could easily take Midian without the help of God, essentially. Or that is what they would say when they do win. God did not want glory to go to Israel, to the forces. He didn't want the glory to go to them because it's not their glory to get. They would forget God if this happened. And we know this would happen. This makes sense because everything God does, it cannot go to us. Whether we think it or not, it cannot be put on us. Whatever God does, that is his glory to get. Just like whatever we do on earth, maybe at a job or just different things in your life, you get the credit for doing good things. God deserves the credit for his good things. And so he knows Israel is a very corrupt and sinful people, as we have seen multiple times and we will see multiple times. So he ensures that they have no ability to say, "We did this." We like to take the credit for what God does, but we must remember to glorify God and humble ourselves. This is a story of humility. God knew that the army was too large, so he decreased the number drastically to 300 men. With this number, they will win. God will deliver Midian to them, but they cannot take the credit for what God has done. It is impossible. When he decreases the army down to 300, they knew this was impossible. There is no possible way that they could win this battle with only 300 men. It's not possible. Everybody knew it. It would have to take a miracle for them to win, which is exactly the point. So if you feel there is a task that is impossible for you, you're probably right. But if you could do it alone, that does not glorify God. He will give us tasks that are impossible for us alone to complete. But it will only be possible with the help of God, so that we can glorify him. But Midian, in the end, is destroyed. And Gideon makes the leaders of Israel suffer for their pride. They refuse to help. Gideon later dies, And we continue this story through his son. Now, this story does not have that good of an ending because, as you have seen, it does not go well. Israel once again turns against God. In Luke, Passover comes, and the 12 and Jesus take part in the Passover feast. Jesus will die in just a few hours. Judas has planned to betray Jesus. But why? How can someone betray Jesus in such a way? Judas has shown a distaste for how Jesus handles the money since Judas kept the money, but we don't know exactly why Judas would betray Jesus. We don't know if it's selfishness. We don't know if he was angry with Jesus. We just don't know. But we do know that this had to happen, and Jesus knew it. Jesus knows what needs to happen to give us salvation. He knows how it needs to happen, and he is preparing his disciples for it. He's been teaching them many, many things, especially in these last few days, as we've seen them. But at Passover, he teaches them about his death and how they can remember him. What do they need to do to remember? This is such an intimate moment with the disciples and preparing them for a difficult time in their ministry. Their teacher is going to die and leave them. They are extremely confused, however, and they could not grasp what was happening. Now, it's hard to picture us in that time because we know today what will happen. But with all the teachings they have been given, this one was the most confusing. Jesus has told them multiple times, I am going to die, I am going to die. And he does it again here, and they still are confused. And so they really had to struggle with this very confusing teaching. They still didn't quite understand it. Jesus knows they don't quite understand it, and that's going to cause them to have a really crazy weekend, essentially. But they again need to be humbled by Jesus. You would think that when Jesus says, I'm going to die, that would be all they would talk about for the rest of the night. But no, they change the subject and they talk about which of them is greater than the other. Jesus has to remind them, and in turn reminding us, that in order to be the greatest, you must lessen yourself. You have to be the least. You must be a servant to others and to God. You cannot exalt yourself above others. And so Peter kind of gets humbled as well by Jesus in a more specific way. Jesus warns Peter of his betrayal or his denying, and this reminds us that we are kind of like this. When we're in trouble, we have a desire to deny Christ. And so Jesus has to deal with the disciples not understanding his death, the whole purpose of him being here, and with their prideful sense of, I'm greater than the other disciples. And so, after this, they go to the garden to pray, and Jesus is taken away. And we will later read about what happens after Jesus is taken away. But he's taken in front of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish leaders. They ask him questions, and Jesus really doesn't answer too much. He's refusing to answer a lot because they're just going to continue to say the same things. He's not wasting his breath. They ask him, Are you calling yourself the Son of Man? Are you calling yourself the Messiah? Are you calling yourself God? And he just says, you say I've been. And so we know that Jesus has been calling himself these things. We know this. We've read it multiple times. They haven't really seen what we read yet. They've only heard stories. But in the end, Jesus just stays somewhat silent and allows these events to take place. He is going willingly to the cross. He is not fighting. He is going willingly. Thank you for joining in the reading and understanding of these chapters, and let us all be vigilant in continuing this reading. Please share, like, follow, or whatever you can do to help us reach more people with the Bible reading. Please also check out the High Quality Gospel website for more information and a couple of store items. Thank you, and keep learning.